And all the while that's happening, Shorty looks fine as fuck. She's very munchable. She's probably Nadera or she's in shorts. She looks very fuckable at the time. Dude goes ahead, he eats and he eats, in whichever order that is. Man them goes, lays his pipe, gets some food, probably takes a shower afterwards. But in between all of that, at some point when they're done laying pipe and dude has already gotten his nut.
The royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
Welcome to the Breaktime Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is a man who used to believe that bukkake was a Japanese form of martial arts. He's a man who believes that astrology should have been the study of ass. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. This is one of those episodes where I want to take a chill pill and just step back a little bit. Not make shit sound like it's too serious, probably throw in a little bit of banter in there, because I feel like there's times when I talk about stuff and it just sounds like I'm so serious about shit all the time. Yet I do like to think that I sometimes have a funny side. So considering that this episode does revolve around the side chick, as the title probably already says, for the most part I do intend on sticking with the extramarital affairs of different people. There's definitely bad in it and I talk about that, but I think people don't understand why it is that guys can engage in some of those acts, but I at least want to elaborate that to a certain degree. But all in all, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope you listen all the way till the end of the podcast, and if you do want to say something in regards to the topic or something that I should discuss, then the social media links are usually in the description below. And if at any point in time you feel like the social media isn't the best way to go and you want to hit me up directly through the fan mail, there is usually a link at the top of the description on every single episode, so that you can reach out and I can see what it is that you want to tell me and I can handle it accordingly. Now, with all of that said, I do need to get to the main topic because it involves a video, and in that video it's a side chick who was busy talking about how her being a side chick might actually not be such a bad idea. But before I get into that, I want to dive into a little bit of degeneracy and talk about how the former Prime Minister of Libya, and by former Prime Minister I mean Muamar Gaddafi, once invited 500 models to his house and probably gave them one of the most unexpected things you would ever expect a man to give a woman. Now, for me to give this story, I just want to give you proper clarification. This isn't something that happened yesterday or like a week ago. This is something from like 2009. But the moment I saw this story, it just piqued my interest so much, because the thought that a guy can first of all call 500 models to the house and they can fit in the house itself is a little bit baffling. And also on top of that, considering that the dude was probably the only man in the area at the time, especially considering that he used to have female bodyguards, the curiosity of what it is that he would have done to 500 models during the night actually gets piqued a little bit more. Although considering that I am a bit of a buzzkill and I don't like dragging things out for too long, well, he just gave them a lecture and Qurans. But you know what, let me just read the story for you in a lot better of a way. So it says, and I quote, "In 2009, Libyan leader Muamar Gaddafi invited hundreds of Italian models to a party in Rome. The event was organized by a modeling agency and promised a glamorous evening, but it turned out to be quite different from what the models expected. Upon arrival, the women were taken to a lecture hall where Gaddafi gave them a speech about Islam, urging them to convert. He presented each of them with a copy of the Quran and spoke about the benefits of Islam, particularly for women. This unusual event was part of Gaddafi's broader strategy to promote Islam in Europe and foster better relations with Italy. The incident received widespread media attention and was seen as an eccentric and controversial move by Gaddafi." End quote. Okay, now to kind of think about it, this guy was the leader of Libya. At some point he was busy trying to unite Africa and like turn it into this ultra superpower that it should be, considering that we hold all of the minerals that the world wants within our borders and within our continent. And mind you, he's not choosing one or the other, like choosing to be a Pan-Africanist or, the leader of Libya. He was doing that at the same time. This guy still had time in his life and money to go and do a side quest of trying to convert a bunch of hoes into Islam. Like, I feel like that shit is wild in and of itself. Like, you'd expect that if he was to do that to foster better relations with Italy, like the article says, you'd expect that he'd at least have a couple of imams dressed up a certain way, and with their beards they can just shave them a little bit, try and look like some of the sexiest Arab guys you've ever seen, call up a bunch of those hoes, and then try to feed them the Islam. But this guy went ahead and did it himself? Like, that shit is wild though. And I know there's someone who's gonna be like, oh, what benefit does Islam have for women, blah blah, they're usually not treated well, blah blah, they're treated like property, blah blah. But honestly, I feel like when you look at some of the Muslim women and they are, married to guys that are like proper staunch Muslim guys, you realize that not unless if like it's a situation where the woman has to work, it's like for them, their job is mostly just ensuring that the house is taken care of and pumping out kids. And I know right now it might seem a little misogynistic that I'm saying that, and it seems like it's supposed to be this easy thing, but think about it. Would you much rather go out there into the job market, constantly work for someone that may treat you well, may treat you poorly, depends on their mood and who they are as a person, so you hope that you get a good one, all with the knowledge that you could be told to bounce and go home at any time, with this glaring fact that you have to meet a certain number of KPIs, or should I say performance targets, otherwise you will be told to fuck off, or you just choose to stay married to one dude. You'll produce 2, 3, maybe 4 kids over the course of like 3, 4, 5 years, maybe 10 if you guys are willing to take some time off. And for the most part, you do the very fulfilling job of just ensuring that the kids are taken care of and the house is well taken care of and that your husband is taken care of. Like, the women that are working and are married are tasked with that same exact role. And you're telling me that you would much rather go out into the job market and do that shit as opposed to being some Muslim guy's wife? Like, come on, bruh. Like, I'm not saying that it's bad or that it's good. It's just sometimes you look at the way women are complaining about adulting and you're like, if you were given this option, I'm sure you'd probably take it, at least for the time being. But with that said, you think about the way this guy decided to do it as like a side quest. Like, it is actually something that is very, very profound. And much as I may not be the biggest advocate for Islam, I do like the way it does create principled people to a certain degree. And if it's actually at a point where someone is using Islam to improve relations between countries by talking to hoes and giving them Qurans, honestly, I feel like dude has done way more missionary work from a religious perspective than most Christians usually do whenever they're going in the name of quote-unquote missionary work. But then again, that's just me, and my favorite type of missionary isn't the Islam or the Christian one. It's usually the position that I do in the bedroom. So I'm going to leave it at that and move it on to our main topic of this episode. Now, a couple of years ago, I brought up the whole idea of cheating and side chicks and why it is sometimes guys usually have side chicks. And while I do not endorse cheating, at that point in time, I was like, I don't endorse it, but I can sort of understand why guys, or at least some guys, would end up doing it the way that I described it. Now, firstly, it does seem a little bit weird when I say a couple of years ago, because it makes it seem like I've been doing this whole podcast thing for a while, for like years and years. Yet, I personally feel like I only started just not too long ago, and I've just racked up a bunch of different episodes. And secondly, when I was busy describing it, I was describing it from a guy's point of view. I was describing it the way a lot of guys would see it. But considering that it does seem a little bit one-sided, it may have been perceived as biased. So when I found a video where a woman was talking about why it is side chicks make marriages last, my interest in the matter was actually piqued. So I figured I might as well just go ahead and actually check out what it is that she said. Then I can give my thoughts on it, and I have the video here, so I am going to let it play, then I can give my thoughts on it. So without further ado,
do you think side chicks make marriages last?
Of course they do.
What do they specially do?
We're going to use Lagos as a case study. And then from my own personal experience, you and your husband, you live in VGC. And I live where I live. Chevron, Ekota Villa. Now, he's been on that traffic from VI, wherever his office is. Boom. If he's driving, even worse. He has a driver. Hallelujah. At least he's not stressing so much. He drives and gets to Chevron and gets to me. And I'm by the door to open the door for him. He comes inside. I hug him, I give him a peck. Depends on how he made me feel the previous day. So he comes inside and I'm asking him, hey, baby, how are you? How was work? Did your day go okay? While I'm doing that, I'm taking off his shoes. You know, like he's seated, I'm taking off his shoes. If he's wearing socks, obviously, I'm taking it off and then giving him a little foot massage while pep talking him about how his day went. And I'm attentive to listen to him vent about what happened in the office and what didn't happen. And after that, and you know, in all of these conversations, I probably would have moved from his legs and I'm sitting on him. This the wife won't do at home in most cases, but she doesn't have time. Me, I have the whole day. I have the whole time in the world because that is how he sees me every time he comes. So he's used to that pamper that he probably doesn't get at home. So I'm sitting on his laps, he's grabbing my butt, or he's seeing my butt. My nipples are all over his face. Available for him to touch, right? And I'm smelling good. Do you understand me? Yeah. So he likes what he's seeing. He likes the full attention that I'm giving to him, undivided. For that 45 minutes or 30 minutes that he's spending with me, he is my priority. He is number one. I'm not, even if I'm leaving him, it's probably to go get him a glass of juice. If he drinks whiskey, a glass of whiskey, or maybe get his food, or whatever that is in the house available. But the point is, there is a relationship that is very intense in a very short period of time. It could be 30 minutes that he spends with me. But that 30 minutes, I'm not leaving him alone. In that 30 minutes, I'm all over his business. In that 30 minutes, I'm making my demands. He's making his. Everybody is collecting whatever they want to collect from each other. And what is he getting? Attention, sex, romance. That's it. That's all the married man wants from the woman outside anyways.
So how does that keep his marriage at home?
Good. So when he leaves me, he spends 45 minutes with me, he's calm. He's relaxed. Whatever heat is at home, he can deal with it calmly. He can deal with it way better than if he just drove from the office in that traffic and he goes home straight. He'll be angry, he'll be agitated, he'll be like, you know what, I just want to go upstairs and rest. But when he has spent that quality time with me, whatever madam is saying at home is fine.
Okay. So I normally don't like to gloat and make it seem as though I know a lot of shit, but when I was busy talking about this, like what, 2.5 years ago, like I clearly was on some shit because everything that she's explained, save for a couple of details here and there, was actually almost exactly the same scenario that I was busy talking about when it came to guys cheating. But then again, before I can say anything in regards to the entire thing, as usual, considering that this is a married man, a situation of married people, I need to give the typical marriage disclaimer, which is, considering that I am not married, neither have I been married before, anything that I say in regards to the realm of marriage and married people is purely speculation at best and should be taken with a pinch of salt and a dash of aromat. Now, with that said, and considering that it's not like I'm even going to be talking that much about a married man and like married men and shit. Now, I have spoken about this before and I did mention these situations. I've actually brought up, I think, 2 different scenarios that are very similar to this. There was one where I was talking about how when a man ends up cheating on their partner with someone that is very close to them, so like say the secretary at work or a colleague in the office or even the house help in the house, there's usually some sort of closeness that's developed there and some sort of treatment that the man is getting from that person that their wife, that their partner isn't really giving them, and so they end up finding it in that person and it becomes hard for them to actually just say no and leave. And I spoke about that one, but this isn't that. This is purely a side chick. And I've also spoken about a scenario that's exactly like this. You know, you have this side chick, you have been dealing with a bunch of shit at work, it's been super stressful, you finish, you leave, you go to see this babe. But even before you left the office to go see her, you called her up and you're like, I'm on my way. And she's like, you mind sending a little bit of money so that I can buy something to make for you, like chicken or some shit like that? And you send the dough. So by the time you're getting to her place, you know, the chicken is either ready or it's almost ready. She's like, hey baby, come in, you should take off your shoes. So dude is taking off his shoes, socks. Shorty probably has like a nice warm bath. She's going to massage those feet. Baby, how's your day been? Nigga is out there busy just talking a bunch of BS, or he's saying some shit that she probably won't understand, or she said it's been a stressful day. Afterwards, she will probably just tell him to just sit down, the food is ready, serves the dude, and all the while that's happening, shorty looks fine as fuck. She's very munchable. She's probably Nadera, or she's in shorts. She looks very fuckable at the time. Dude goes ahead, he eats and he eats, in whichever order that is. Man them goes, lays his pipe, gets some food, probably takes a shower afterwards. But in between all of that, at some point when they're done laying pipe and dude has already gotten his nut, you'll find that the baby's probably caressing the dude's chest, and she's like, by the way, I need to go get my hair done. Oh, I really want to go and have fun with my friends and shit. Dude is nowhere near the realm of saying, you know what? No, I don't think I can do this. I don't have my... Man then pulls his phone out, sends her 20 bands. Just like that. Or 50 bands. I don't know. Either way, dude is sending her money. And the guy will do that, and the babe will continue to treat him this very nice way. And he'll leave and he'll go home. He gets to the house, it's like the wife does not feel like interacting with him. She's also had a stressful day. She didn't feel like dealing with dude. And, the kids are probably there. He'll just look at the kids. He'll go, he'll chill for a bit, read the newspaper, get up, go into the bedroom and sleep. And the woman is probably going to be like, you know what, at least this guy doesn't bother me for sex anymore. But dude is getting some out here, and he is clearly not bothering you because he is getting some from the side piece. And to be honest, when you listen to some of the things that married men say they go through in their homes, you can understand why they get to such a point. I'm not saying that I endorse it or that I want it to happen, but there was the time when I was dealing with the Twitter thread on how married men are surviving out here, and from guys that are sleeping in a different room with their partners to guys that are always being treated like shit, especially on the weekends when they just want to go and have a drink with the boys. They are checking into the house at 10 p.m. and the woman is coming with a book of sins that the man has committed, and she's busy talking him down, and at the same time she's gonna go to church on Sunday and pray and be like, oh, I really pray for blah blah blah. That time she's holding that book up. I saw so many stories of guys that are going through it. So when I hear that there's a side chick that's treating them like this, I can understand why a bunch of these guys would cheat. I'm not saying that I endorse it. I'm not saying that it should happen, but I can understand why a bunch of these guys would cheat. And I know that there's someone who's gonna be like, oh, what about the women? Oh, but if you're not taking care of your woman, blah, blah, blah. And I will do the women's part on a different episode. For today, I'm specifically talking about the guys cheating and the side chicks, more so the side chicks. Because there's a lot of women that nowadays do not mind being side chicks, that do not mind having a thing with a married man and possibly being a side chick because, it seems like the benefits are so good and there's so little that you have to do. You just make the guy feel pampered and that's it. But now, when it comes to doing that, in as much as this babe was like side chicks make the marriage last, one thing that a lot of people, more so young women, never usually fail to actually realize is the fact that being a side chick is a very temporary thing, and the effects of it can actually be very lasting and very painful on you, the woman. And if you think I'm lying, please tell me of a side chick that has remained a side chick for years. Who has managed to pull off a decade with the same guy? It's either they're having a rotation of different dudes, or they are a side chick for a while and they move from being a side chick to being a secret wife or a secret partner with a kid or some shit, or they end up being dropped. But for the most part, you don't find side chicks remaining side chicks for very long, because over time the guy can lose interest in you. But more so for the babe, it's like you start to develop the feels for the guy, and you now want to take up a more elevated position from being the side chick. You want to take up more of a main girlfriend situation. You want to start taking up the spot that the wife has, because it's like the wife seems to be fumbling a particularly good guy. And oddly enough, you see a lot of women going through this time and time again, and it's like they do not learn and they do not try to educate some of their fellow sisters or fellow friends on how bad of an idea this is. And it is actually one of the biggest reasons why men get caught. There was a clip that I was checking out earlier this morning where some guy was like, it's not that men are that bad at cheating, it's just that some of these side chicks want to be elevated, so they start messing up things with your partner as is. And I totally agree with that shit. You over there, you're a side chick. I don't see why you're calling me at 11:30 p.m. when I'm supposed to be in bed with my wife, or at 2 a.m. because you want to check up on me or you're having some sort of a problem. You know I'm sleeping and my wife is right next. Even my own best friend cannot call me at 2 a.m. in the morning, not unless if it is a situation of dire importance where I have to be called at that particular time. But no, you're the one that's gonna make those calls. You're the one that's gonna start leaving your cologne and your perfume on my shirt. You're the one that leave lipstick marks or makeup marks on my clothing. And at the end of the day, those are the things that will start bringing up those quote-unquote issues with my partner, because she'll start noticing, why is it that my man is coming home and I am smelling another woman's perfume on him, yet he smelled like a man when he left the house? Like, why is it that this guy nowadays does not want to eat in the house, and yet even when it comes to sex, he's not asking for it from me? Like, those are the things that now start bringing in the issues. But she probably wouldn't have started thinking about a bunch of those other things if you didn't start calling at 2 a.m. or trying to send me nudes at random times when you know very well I'm probably in the living room with my partner and she could probably be standing beside me. So, like, you find that a lot of side chicks now start doing this because it's like they're trying to occupy the territory that the wife is in, and they'll try to encroach little by little, more and more, as they start to try and force her out. And when they realize that that's not happening, it's not very uncommon for some of them to actually just get pregnant by choice. Like, a lot of people like to talk about how, oh, you know, if a babe gets pregnant, oh, you just have to own up. Like, I have said this more than once on this podcast before. Women choose their baby daddies. Not unless if she is naive or stupid, of which that side chick probably isn't. They know exactly what they're doing. And they know if they got pregnant earlier on and they're not ready to have a kid, they'll go and they'll get rid of the kid. But suddenly they're like, oh, I'm pregnant and I'm gonna keep it. Like, you realize that some of them are just trying to occupy the same space as the wife because they're tired of just having to give the fake sort of love and the fake affection, because now it's starting to affect them. The sex now is starting to feel a little bit more real because it's a little bit more constant with the same person, and you want better treatment. And the only way you can get better treatment is if you move yourself from side chick level to either baby mama or wife territory, of which now that's what they start working towards. So even though someone is like, oh, you know, side chicks make the marriage last, like, not unless if they're being a side chick for a short period of time, then they get dropped and the guy picks up another one. For the most part, they make them last, but they don't make them last very long. Like, you can make the marriage continue on for a while, but it's like you're still wrecking the marriage at some point in the near future. So this idea that side chicks make the marriage last, like, you can keep it running for a while, but it's like you're delaying an inevitable problem and possibly making it quite a lot worse, because now you are injecting yourself as a piece of an extramarital affair that probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. Which kind of leads me to my conclusion to all of this, which is, just like friends with benefits and situationships, side chicks are temporary. Like, I think a lot of women need to understand that, and a lot of guys. Side chicks are temporary. So not unless if they are being elevated to being the girlfriend or the baby mama or the wife, for the most part, if you're a side chick, your role in that entire thing is temporary. You have a lifespan that is not particularly long. It's not like you're gonna do a decade. So for the most part, while I do not recommend it, if you are going to do it, it's not like there's anyone that's going to stop you. But should you choose to accept your role as a side chick, you must also bear in mind that your emotional needs may not be satisfied after a while, and there's a pretty good chance that the effects of that might end up being a lot more permanent as opposed to being temporary, much like you being a side chick. Although, then again, considering that I've never had a side chick nor have I ever been actually married, I might be wrong about this, but either way, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open. On IG, it is at the Breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the Breaktime Podcast. And on X, it is at Bagaka the D. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.
But what I believe is that if you put a pastor and a prostitute in one room, one is likely to convert the other.